Have you ever been browsing through recipes and found a recipe that looked absolutely amazing, but you saw that it called for sweetened condensed milk? You ever done that? I have. And so your first reaction is, well, I guess I can't make that recipe. There's no sugar-free condensed milk around here, and there's definitely no keto-friendly condensed milk around here. Right? Just gotta forgo it, right? Wrong. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make keto-free condensed milk. That, of course, is keto-free, low-carb, sugar-friendly, diabetic-friendly, but it's also gluten-free and has dairy-free options for all of you who are dairy intolerant. I know, I'm a genius. And I'm not going to just show you one way to make it, but I'm going to show you how to make it 3 very easy ways. The first way is going to be the way you would make traditional sugar-free condensed milk. And the second way is a 5-minute keto-friendly condensed milk. And the third way is a no-cook keto condensed milk. I know, you're probably thinking, how in the world can you make keto condensed milk without cooking it? Well, I'm going to show you. It is so easy. And if you want printable versions of these, you can check out my website at janetsdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find printable versions of these and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, while you're down there clicking the subscribe button, make sure right next to the subscribe button you click that little bell. That way you can be notified every time I put out a new video. And while you do that, let's get cooking. In a 12-inch skillet or wide 5-quart stock pan, add 2½ cups of heavy whipping cream and a ½ cup of powdered swerve or powdered sweetener of your choice. Add 1/4 cup of butter. Keep gently stirring the mixture just until the butter completely melts. Now I usually cut my butter into cubes just because it helps it to melt faster. You don't have to do that, but that's what I do. And you just keep gently stirring it just until the butter's all completely melted. Make sure it is completely melted. Once the butter's melted, you can stop stirring, but again, do not walk away from the pan. Wait for it to come to that simmering boil. Once it's come to the simmering boil, you're going to reduce the heat just slightly to medium-low. Then you're going to simmer it for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the milk has reduced by about 50% and is thick. You're looking for the end result to be creamy, smooth, and thick. It's going to be nice and gooey. And make sure again that you are stirring this frequently because this can burn easily. I usually use either the 12-inch skillet or a 5-quart stock pan. But if you don't have that big of a skillet, you can use a smaller skillet or a medium-sized saucepan, but just be forewarned that if you do use a smaller pan, it will take longer, probably closer to 30 minutes, for the mixture to be reduced and it thicken up to create that sugar-free sweetened condensed milk. So again, the size of pan that you use depends on how long it's going to take. What you're looking for the mixture to be reduced by about 50%, and for a nice thick texture. You should be able to spoon it, and when you turn the spoon over, it should slide out, not quickly drip. It should slowly slide out. Once it's done simmering and the milk is reduced and it's nice and thick, remove it from the heat and stir in 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla if you're using it. The vanilla extract is optional. I like it because it gives a sweeter taste to the milk. But if you don't want the vanilla extract in there, you don't have to put it in there. That's up to you. Then let it cool in the pan until it comes to room temperature. I usually do it for about 30 minutes, and this will thicken a little bit more as it cools. Once it's come to room temperature, pour the milk into a mason jar or an airtight container and let it cool completely on your countertop before storing it or before using it. You can store it in the refrigerator for up to a week. Now, another heads up you'll need to be aware of this is If you're storing it in the refrigerator and keeping it for more than a day, it most likely will tighten and turn to a solid form because you're using butter in this. And butter, when it gets cold, it automatically solidifies back into its butter texture. So this will most likely solidify in your refrigerator, but that's okay. That doesn't mean it's ruined. All you need to do is, I usually run my jar with the lid on under hot water just for a little bit. Then I dry it off. Then I take the lid off and put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds or just until it's loosened up and it's turned back into that nice, milky, smooth, thick texture that it needs to be. Then I usually just put a fork in it, whisk it up a little bit just to make sure it's all nice and combined and make sure that it is nice and smooth. And then you can use it in any recipe that calls for sweetened condensed milk. In a medium saucepan, pour 1 cup of whole milk or full-fat coconut milk. You can probably use almond milk also. I haven't tried it, but I'm sure you can. There's no reason that it shouldn't work. Heat the milk over medium heat until it almost comes to a boil. You do not want it to come to a full boil. Just when you start seeing little tiny bubbles around the edges, then you know that's just enough. You don't want it to come to a complete boil. Add 1/4 cup of monk fruit sweetener or granulated sweetener of your choice. Stir it in for 1 minute over the medium heat or until the sweetener is fully dissolved. Might take a little bit longer depending on what sweetener you're using, but I know with the monk fruit that I'm using here, it only took about a minute for it to fully dissolve. Once the sweetener has dissolved, then add 2 cups of powdered milk or powdered coconut milk. Then use a whisk and whisk it together really well until the powdered milk is fully combined into the milk and there are no large lumps. This usually takes about a minute to fully stir it in. You want it to be fully combined. You do not want to have chunky milk. That's gross. So really make sure you whisk it in well. Once the milk is combined, add 4 tablespoons of butter and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Reduce the heat to low and stir the milk continually for about 2 minutes or until the butter is completely melted and the mixture once again has almost come to a boil. Never bring this mixture to a complete boil. You run the risk of curdling your milk, so make sure it's just almost there but not quite at a full boil. Place a large strainer over a heat-safe bowl, preferably a bowl that has a spout. That way it makes it easier for you to pour it into a container after the milk cools. But if you don't have a heat-safe bowl that has a spout, any heat-safe bowl will do. Pour your milk through the strainer so you can strain out any lumps of the milk powder that might not have dissolved all the way. Sometimes the milk powder can still leave little lumps in your milk. That's why you always want to pour it through a strainer to make sure all of the lumps of the powder are out completely. Tilt the strainer slightly from side to side just to make sure all the liquid is out of the bowl and the only thing that's left in the strainer is any lumps of milk powder that might be left. Once the milk is all strained and it's nice and smooth, then let it cool in the bowl for about a half hour to 45 minutes or until it's reached room temperature. After it's cooled in the bowl for 30 to 45 minutes, use a whisk and whisk it one more time just to make sure everything is completely combined together. Then pour the milk into a mason jar or an airtight container and let it cool completely before you put the lid on it and before you store it. Once it's cooled completely, you can use it immediately in any recipe that you need condensed milk, or you can put the lid on it and store it in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. In a microwave-safe mug, place 1/4 cup of butter and microwave on high for about 30 seconds or until it's completely melted, and then set it aside. In a large blender, place 1 cup of instant dry milk powder or powdered coconut milk, and 2/3 cup of monk fruit sweetener or granulated sweetener of your choice. Now, if you are planning to use this for my ice cream recipes or any ice cream recipe, then you want to use 1 cup of allulose. And the reason why you want to use allulose instead of monk fruit sweetener if you're making ice cream is because monk fruit sweetener freezes solid. Allulose freezes more like regular sugar. And if you want a lesson on allulose, I can make you a little mini lesson on allulose another time. But for now, just say, if you're using it for anything but ice cream, use monk fruit sweetener or any other granulated sweetener. But if you are planning to use it for an ice cream recipe, use allulose. Then in another microwave-safe mug, place 1/3 cup of water and microwave on high for about 1 to 2 minutes or until the water is boiling. Now, how long you have to microwave it for depends on your microwave. My microwave is a little bit higher wattage, so it only took me 1 full minute and it was boiling by then because it's only 1/3 cup of water. So just check it at the 1 minute mark. If it's not boiling yet, then put it in just for a little bit longer until the water is boiling. Once your water is boiling, pour it into the blender with your sweetener and the powdered milk. Then add the 1/4 cup of melted butter. Blend on low anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute or until everything is creamy and smooth. Once it's smooth, scrape down the sides as needed. If your milk seems really thick and you can't pour it, then add anywhere from 2 to 4 more tablespoons of very hot water. Make sure the water is very hot when you put it in there. So if it's thick, add 2 more tablespoons of very hot water. Blend it for another 30 seconds. If it still is not pourable, then add 1 to 2 more tablespoons of hot water and blend it for another 30 seconds or so. It should be smooth and pourable by then. You should not have to add more than 4 tablespoons of hot water. By the time you're all done blending it, the consistency will be kind of like a syrup. It's going to be thick, but you should be able to still pour it out of the spout of your blender and it pour out easily. So it's going to be thick and kind of a sticky, syrupy consistency, but not so thick that you can't pour it. So once you have it all blended and the right consistency, then pour it into an airtight container and store it in the fridge for up to 1 week. Now the milk will thicken more as it cools and it will thicken more as it's in the refrigerator. If you are going to be storing it for more than 1 day, then each day you need to check on the milk and use a fork and stir it up. Make sure everything is still staying combined and nothing's separating. So you need to do that at least once a day if you are storing it for more than 24 hours. Now when you go to use your milk, if it seems like it's thickened up too much, then use a fork, stir it, see how the consistency is after that. If it still thickens up so much that you cannot pour it, then just pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds or let it sit on the countertop until it comes up to room temperature. Then stir it and it should come back to that consistency of traditional condensed milk. Thick, sticky, and syrupy, but not so thick you can't pour it. You can use this in any recipe that calls for condensed milk. Just remember, if you are using it for ice cream, make sure the sweetener is allulose. And those are our recipes of the day. I hope you enjoyed them all. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button. You can leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.